Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for tuning in to Nerdy for 30, the podcast where we talk about nerdy-ish things for 30-ish minutes. My name is Kevin Bauer. I'm joined as always by my co-host, comedian Tim Keck. And today we have the misfortune of talking to you about The Munsters 2022, directed by Rob Zombie. I sincerely hope you didn't watch this movie. It is my sincerest hope. We talked, our last episode, I think, was on Barbarian, and we spent the first third of the podcast. We didn't get to a lot of things we should have gotten to in the podcast because we spent the first third of this thing talking about how you should shut the podcast off and go see the movie. This is the exact opposite. Turn the volume up on the podcast, glue your smartphone into your hand. Just make sure that you don't have the Netflix app installed, because I swear to God, if your thumb accidentally slipped and turned on The Munsters, you will regret it for the rest of your life.
Kevin, I think Nerdy for 30 needs like an electoral college for our voting system. Like we need some like gerrymandering. We need some sort of like political hoofla to make sure that atrocities like this don't ever happen to us again. You voted. The Munsters was in. You made us. Why? Who was looking forward to this? I feel like this was a prank on us, but we did it. We watched it. And I think people should watch this movie just to see what we sat through for like 2 hours. This is a long, gosh, how long was it? It felt like it took forever.
Yeah.
It took an eternity. Kevin, this might be one of the worst movies I've ever seen in my life. This is probably one of the worst things I've ever seen before. And I saw a car accident that killed 10 people. And this Munsters movie, somehow I had more nightmares about this Munsters movie than I did about that moment. It's baffling. It's almost unwatchable. It's nothing like The Munsters.
You're right. It did fail out of the gate.
Immediately it was like, oh, this isn't the dry family sitcom I remember. It's like, I'm like, where's the kids? Oh, it's them before they had the kids. Who gives a shit? Like, this sucks. Just everything about this sucked. There was nothing redeemable about it. Even like the way Herman, his like skin color. You know, I wouldn't normally don't say this about anybody, but his skin color was hard to look at. It was like this neon green. It was like the worst kind of green, Kevin. You do marketing stuff and, you know, real life. Is that like the most vile green you've ever seen in your life? It disturbed me every time I saw it. It was always like too bright for the situation. I don't know. I was the design of these characters was crazy. Yeah.
Can I tell you something? And I am dead serious about this. I don't know, because about 15 minutes into the movie, I went into my TV settings and I turned the TV to black and white. I swear to God, because number one, I was like, there is nothing that can happen in the other hour and 45 minutes that I'm going to have to sit through The Munsters that is going to make me wonder if maybe I made the wrong choice by switching it to black and white. And in the meantime, I was like, maybe it being in black and white is going to help give it more of that Munsters flair. I will tell you this, it did not.
Wow. I'm so jealous I didn't think of that. That's actually a brilliant. I think that would have made the movie more watchable for me. I'm not even joking. I think that would have helped a lot.
I think it really did. Like, I have called movies unwatchable before, but never before this did I mean that they were actively hard to look at. My eyes wanted to avoid the screen. My eyes were going everywhere else in the room. I felt a little bit bad coming into this because I was like, look, I know we're going to talk shit on this movie for 25% of the runtime tonight. And I know that Rob Zombie directed this because he really, really loves The Munsters. Rob Zombie has been trying to make a Munsters movie since 2002.
And in defiance of God, someone allowed it to happen. Whoever greenlit this thing should be fucking, I don't know. They should be forced to watch this movie. They're terrible human beings, and they did a terrible thing, and they should be punished for it. It's awful.
Well, that's what's crazy to me is that he loves The Munsters, and this is what he did. Nothing about this bears any resemblance to The Munsters, the TV show.
It's crazy. have you seen the Munsters a lot? Like, do you have any connection with the Munsters? I remember them vaguely. I remember seeing them. I feel like it was like a Nick at Night thing, right? Growing up, they were like these black and white things. And it was like, I remember being like very dry. It was basically just mapping like a dry family sitcom on the fact that they are monsters, you know? And I was so flummoxed after the movie that I just YouTubed clips. And one of the things was like, Herman Munster going to college to try and get his niece to pay his niece's tuition. And they think he's a student athlete and they recruit him to their college basketball team. And then it turns out he's amazing at basketball. And I'm like, oh, this is the kind of dumb, like slapstick thing that I'm expecting from this. Nothing that charming at all in this. It's rough. It's real rough.
I'll tell you why, Tim, because what you just described is a plot, which is something that this movie sorely lacked.
There's zero plot.
There's nothing.
Zero plot in this.
I think my best guess, I was thinking about it afterwards. My best guess is that this was like 4 episodes of a TV show that he wrote that he decided to just make 1 2-hour movie instead. Because there are, I guess, kind of like 4, I would never give it the credit of calling it an arc, but there are 4 chunks that make up this wad of a movie. Yes. And each of the chunks is about 30 minutes long, which makes me think that maybe those were supposed to be episodes. There's not a story arc in sight. I don't think there's conflict. I don't think anyone changes or learns anything. They just kind of like drift aimlessly from scene to scene. People aren't acting. I don't know what they're doing. I have no idea. I know that everybody that's in this movie is like a friend of Rob Zombie, which makes total sense because there's no other reason these human beings would be in this. He's not. I know that like Fred Gwynne, the guy that played Herman Munster in the show, is a beloved character actor. Everybody loved this guy. You watch clips of the Munsters. I watched clips as well. I paused the movie halfway through and pulled up some Munsters clips because I was like, maybe I just don't remember. And this is the tone from the show. It is not. He has such a charming, dry delivery in that show.
Yes.
And this guy is not doing a Fred Gwynne impression, which I don't think he should do a Fred Gwynne impression. But at least you would think that tonally you want it to be in the same world. You know, we talked about Lemony Snicket's The Series of Unfortunate Events a couple episodes ago, and we talked about Paddington 2. And I went back and rewatched that one because you were talking about Jim Carrey playing Count Olaf in it.
Yes.
And I remember being like, oh, that was a ton of fun. I wonder if it holds up. It totally does.
It's amazing. He's so good.
It's a blast. It's so much fun. And then I put on the Netflix original series because I remember Dave, shout out Dave Ravelides, liked that when it came on. And Neil Patrick Harris isn't doing a Jim Carrey impression. And I mean, huge shoes to try to fill to come into like that sort of a role after Jim Carrey. But he still manages to play in the same tone, but make it distinctly a Neil Patrick Harris character. And it works. This guy, I mean, what the fuck are they doing with these characters?
I think the biggest difference is that Neil Patrick Harris is talented. He's like, he has any talent whatsoever. I want to touch on the acting because as you said, they are all just friends of Rob Zombie. There's the guy who played Grandpa, it's like Daniel Roebuck, who looks like maybe like played the dad in like a Disney Channel show. Like I feel like I recognize him vaguely. Mm-hmm. Everyone. Oh, and then Floop, who's Hurley from Lost.
Yeah.
Everyone else, it seems like, is at least the main characters are just friends of Rob Zombie. The lead, Lily, is Rob Zombie's wife.
Yeah.
And her entire body of work is just being in Rob Zombie stuff and like 2 stints, like one-offs on television shows where I'm sure she's just playing like a corpse or someone who's killed off like within the first 30 seconds. Like, these are not talented people, and they probably have never seen the Munsters before. There were moments where I kind of liked the Herman Munster. He had moments where I'm like, oh, I kind of get how like this part of his character makes sense. The Lily Munster impression, I was like, what the fuck is it? She was doing this like thing with her hands and she was like, oh, what is she's like speaking very high and oh my God, you're so silly, Herman. And I'm like, I don't remember this at all. What was this isn't how Lily Munster acts or talks. I don't remember that at all. I mean, and then I guess this is them when they're younger. So maybe you can brush it off as like, you know, you watch the Munsters and they're like more grown up and mature because they're like more slow and like whatever. But I'm still like, this Lily character was someone who's never seen this before. And my God, what a task to like put on your friends too. Like he knows they're bad actors. Like there's no way he thinks they're good actors. And he's just like, hey, do this. We're doing an homage to the sitcom with talented actors and performers. And we need you to do impressions of them. And both of the impressions are like so fucking off. It's bad. Like, how did this happen, Kevin? It's baffling that this even happened. It's insulting. And I don't even really give a shit about the Munsters, to be honest. I kind of like the show. But I was offended on behalf of everyone who'd ever worked for the Munsters, anyone who cared about the Munsters. God.
I was offended as someone who has attempted to tell a joke before. This movie has the worst sense of humor I've ever seen. There are so many moments in this where it's like, Lauren was asking whether a laugh track would have helped it. And
yes,
I don't think it would have, because like sitcoms have a reputation for having things. You look at some of the Chuck Lorre stuff, like The Big Bang Theory. There are moments in those where people say things that are not jokes, but the rhythm is there. And so the crowd responds because they know they're supposed to laugh at this beat in the dialogue, even though what they just said was just at best a non sequitur. In this, we're not even getting non sequiturs. We'll just hold on a character for a little bit and then she'll like twist her fingers or twiddle her fingers for a little bit and leave. The scene in the very beginning where she shows up for the date and just kind of drifts toward the camera for a while. And then there's like a weird, like slow motion thing where they kind of like crossfade and spin around each other and then just start having a conversation. I think you could have made a joke. I was excited when I started seeing her approaching really slowly, because you could make a joke out of that, like Austin Powers style, when the dude with like, I don't know what the thing's called, that like flattens, it's got the roller on the front, is driving it. Michael McDonald really slowly, and he's going like, no, and he won't get out of the way and it smushes him. I thought, you know, maybe we were getting one of those. She's just approaching really, really slowly and we keep getting the same cut multiple times. And now I have no idea if it was supposed to be a joke at all. I think it was just a really bizarre choice that was made. And I don't know why it was made.
It's not delivered like a joke. There's a way in which it would be a joke, like where someone's like, and here's Lily. And then she's coming out and then they cut back to Herman, who's like waiting, and then cut back to her and she's still moving. This is not. It's just every time she enters a room, it's like a still shot of her for like 15 seconds of her just like sliding in. Nobody reacts to it. It's very weird. I didn't laugh a single time in this. Mm-hmm. There was nothing even remotely funny about this. There was nothing even close to a joke. I think a laugh track would have made it more watchable. Just, I don't think I would have laughed at anything, but like laugh tracks are proven to make these kinds of shows better. Like the original had a laugh track. I think there's something comforting about that. But the bit with laugh tracks is that everybody hates them. Everyone says they hate them when they're watching a show. God, I hate watching Friends because of the laugh track. But the laugh track is proven to make these shows funnier. It's like a trick. There's been like studies on it. People enjoy things more with the laugh track, which is why all these sitcoms that are bad, like they do them.
Question and for you.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
No, what?
I was going to say, do you think that some of the weird shots might be because it had a laugh track and the laugh track was taken out? Because there are a lot of things, like you mentioned, where a character will come on screen and it will linger for a while. So maybe there was like a woo, like a sitcom reaction. My conspiracy theory is still that this was 4 episodes and maybe a laugh track doesn't work for a 2-hour thing the same way it works for like a half hour.
I think Rob Zombie was like, what if I turn the Munsters into a good movie? And that was what his mindset was. And that was his thought process going in. I think that's what he was. I think he was like, there's a way to tell this story without a laugh track, without the sitcom thing. I love these characters so much. I want to see what else is out there for them and take the restraints of a sitcom off of them.
Oh my God.
What's left is an incoherent story that would be better served if it actually was a sitcom. And it's not. The plot, you mentioned how bad the lack of plot is, and there's like no conflict.
Mm-hmm.
These characters are presented with a ton of times to generate conflict, and then there is none. Herman Munster signs away their castle. Mm-hmm. He basically just gives away their house. The dad is mad at him. The count is mad. Lily's disappointed. And then he said, it's fine. We'll move to California and get a new house. And after that, him and the count are like best friends.
Yeah.
It just happens. Like, it's crazy to me. It's like, this guy screwed you over. He's an oaf. He just married your daughter. And now they're father and son because he's like, it's fine. We'll go to California. We don't have any money, whatever. Everyone's character changes. They're a loving family. And then the end of the movie is not the resolution of anything. It's just straight up them winning the lottery, basically. Yeah. So, and then they all laugh, and then the movie's over. And I really sat back and just said, oh, fuck you. I was so goddamn like, what a fucking waste of our time. There's no arc. There's nothing. They move into it's just following them around as they do shit. It's the lack of talent on and behind the camera is baffling, absolutely flummoxing. I don't know. I thought Rob Zombie was like okay too, as like an actor or as a director, but I mean, all the good he's ever done in his life has been canceled out by the evil he's done with this project.
It's incredible.
It's really horrible stuff.
It's incredible. I want to try to explain how bad the attempts at humor are in this script for people that, again, hopefully did not even try to watch this movie. So there's a joke kind of early on in the movie where, and I should do scare quotes around the word joke, where the count is on the phone with his son. And the son is trying to get him to enter into a business deal. And the count presumably is trying to express how badly he does not want to go into business with his son because the son gets involved in bad business deals. The son owes people a lot of money. He has a lot of debts. He's a bad businessman. So the joke is, and I'm pretty sure I'm getting this almost dead on. The joke is go into business with you. I would rather go into business with Jack the Ripper, or should I say Jack the Tipper, which, by the way, terrible tipper, 5% for everything, never anymore. Anyway, I don't want to go into business with you. But like, it's this weird aside that takes up way too much time in what he's saying, but the aside isn't worth it. And also, the premise of it doesn't make sense, because why would he be mad about going into business with Jack the Ripper if Jack the Ripper is a terrible tipper? You don't tip your business partner. The premise is flawed. This house is built on a foundation of sand and trash bags. There's absolutely no strong basis for this joke to exist. And yet here it is. And it might be the most identifiable attempt at a joke in the movie.
I feel like we could spend a half hour just talking about the Jack the Tipper joke. I think it's so fucking stupid. You're right. It doesn't make any sense. The one moment where I was like, oh, there are jokes in this is they showed like a shot, I think, of either their house, the Munsters' house, or the house where Herman was being created. And there were all these signs on the front, and they were like, quote unquote, funny. They were like gag signs, like, Live Dead Girls don't come in.
Was one that I saw.
What?
Live Dead Girls was like a neon sign that I saw somewhere. Yeah.
Live Dead Girls. I saw something that was like, please stop coming here. We're tired of hiding the bodies, and things like that. And for some reason, it just didn't even, I'd been so bludgeoned to death by that point with just like monotony and nothing. It's hard to pick up on any of those jokes, It's like a sight gag. Like, that's what we get after all this. I've been listening to dialogue for 2.5 hours and I get a sight gag.
I gotta tell you, I think part of the problem is that like the sight gags at least work as gags because they are turns of phrase on something we expect, like live dead girls instead of live nude girls, and the cleverness because it's live and in person and they're dead. Like I get it. It's very Mad Magazine of them, but
sounds
like
hacky to me.
It is. I mean,
yeah,
it fucking is. But there's also a lot of stuff where the, again, quote unquote, jokes fall flat because we don't know what the base reality is in this world.
Yes.
It was driving me insane in the flight scene where they said that it was nice of the flight attendants to upgrade them to first class. So they are in, for the listener, they are in an airplane cabin. There is no one else visible in the airplane cabin. The Munsters are talking to each other and saying it's so nice that they upgraded us to first class. Although it's so strange that when they got up there, the rest of the first class passengers ran to the back of the plane. Okay, so theoretically, we know what's going on. People are afraid of the Munsters. Then a flight attendant comes up and Herman Munster asks if he can get another drink, which presupposes that he has gotten a few drinks already from this flight attendant. He asks the flight attendant what the name of the drink was. She whispers it back, but she doesn't whisper it like she's afraid. She whispers it like she's trying to keep her voice down. So immediately there's another question. Is she afraid or is she keeping her voice down for some reason? What's going on? Because it would make more sense if she was afraid, like all the rest of the people on the plane, but nothing about her body language suggests that she's afraid. She goes back to get him another drink. When she comes back to serve him the drink, she's wearing a helmet and a parachute. And after giving him the drink, completely calm, not acting afraid at all, she proceeds to walk up to the front of the plane and open up the emergency door and suck herself out the window. Best possible interpretation of that, again, is that people are afraid of the Munsters. But then when they're getting off of the plane, the pilots are helping Herman Munster, who's acting drunk because of all the drinks that he had. They're helping him onto the tarmac, but they have no problem throwing him over their shoulders. They're not afraid of him at all. They both look like normal people. To make matters worse, the airline they're flying on is Transylvania Air. So if we go from the perspective of, okay, well, when we saw all the monster people at the beginning of this movie, they were living in Transylvania, and that's why it was normal, because the base reality there is that everyone's a monster person, then you would assume that a fucking airline that flies back and forth from a place filled with monster people would have some exposure to monster people. Am I fucking crazy?
No, you're not crazy. I also want to point out that they were helping him down the stairs because the drink he was drinking was a Shirley Temple.
Right.
And he somehow got drunk on Shirley Temples, which is, again, like not even a joke. It's not even slapstick. It's nothing. You're right. You raised two good questions. Who is afraid of the Munsters and who are the Munsters afraid of?
Wow.
I don't know. It's not consistent. The Munsters see normal people all the time. At the end of the movie, they walk outside and they see normal people, and it's the scariest thing they've ever seen in their lives.
Oh, shit. Yeah.
So the Munsters are scared of normal people. Normal people are generally scared of the Munsters unless they're not. And it's baffling. There's just nothing. It's crazy. And the idea that I guess Transylvania is all monsters. Is that the gimmick they're playing? Because there are whole like alleyways. It looks like there's a whole village of monsters that these people go to for dates, and there's concerts, and there's like monsters walking around.
Mm-hmm.
And then they go to Paris and there's no monsters. There's no like monster community. There's just people. So then they just wander around, and when people see them, they're scared of them. And then they go in the sewer and capture something. But wouldn't they be seeking out other groups of monsters? Like, wouldn't they be? Isn't it? I was picturing maybe it's like Harry Potter, where there's like a wizarding world here, and then you go to London, but actually you're visiting the London Harry Potter world, or you go to New York and there's like the American Ministry of Magic.
Sure,
there's nothing
sure.
like that for the Munsters. They just see normal people that, again, they aren't scared of, but everyone's scared of them. And it's crazy. It's It's truly inconsistent and wild.
The thing with that, Tim, is that you would assume then, okay, well, maybe the rest of the world doesn't know about Transylvania being filled with monsters. But then we have the travel agent making fun of them and saying, what do you expect? They are from Transylvania. So what does she know about Transylvania? I mean, dude, the lack of any kind of consistency. What the fuck is this movie? Why are we doing any of this? Did they want to be doing this? If they didn't want to be making this, I would understand it. But the fact that Rob Zombie claimed that he loved the source material, he's spent 20 years trying to make this, and this is what he made. I mean, something doesn't add up.
It's crazy,
something doesn't add up.
The lack of consistency in anything the Munsters do is baffling. I mean, that clip that I mentioned earlier is like Herman goes to college. They recruit him as an athlete. The people aren't seeing him for the first time. They are not scared of him. Mm-hmm. Maybe, I forget, maybe some people in the sitcom world are scared of him. Maybe some aren't. Maybe some are scared when they first see him. But they do a gimmick. The airplane gimmick is perfect. They do a gimmick where a woman is so scared she throws herself out of an airplane. They also don't kick them off the flight. They somehow force every first class passenger into the back of the plane. They put them in the front row. The pilots are not afraid of them at all. The pilots love them. And this woman would rather fall through the air. I mean, she's a flight attendant. How much parachuting experience does this woman have? Is she certified? How many jumps does she have under her belt? She would rather take the risk of diving solo, I think potentially for the first time, than continue on a flight with some guys who are scary looking, but haven't done anything scary or hurtful or inconsiderate at all.
Which is also, let's punch this up right now. It becomes a funny joke if the premise is not that people are afraid of them, but if the premise is that they are such dull, boring people that people are willing to jump out of a plane to get away from them. Now we're talking. We immediately have something here because the pilots haven't had to spend that much time with these people, but the flight attendant has had to keep serving this guy Shirley Temples. Maybe that's what they were going for. But I don't think it is. I think that's just a better idea that we just had.
I don't think it is. It'd be funny if there was something else about them that was alienating.
Yeah.
It would also be funny. Again, Paddington 2, greatest movie of all time. Nobody ever acknowledges the fact that he's a bear as a weird thing. Mm-hmm. People just refer to him, he's just a tiny bear. People that meet him aren't like, what the fuck's this bear doing here? They just accept the fact that a bear's here. Mm-hmm. And that could be an interesting way to just do a monster thing. That's a great angle that they could have done the whole thing as, Yeah. Or they stick with the fact that people are scared of them and just everything that entails. And then why would they be scared of them? I mean, it's crazy. It's just weird.
It's weird. So I was reading about the Munsters and the Addams Family. And believe me, that is a way deeper wormhole than I thought, or a way bigger rabbit hole. It's some kind of a hole. You go in there. So part of the whole adaptation feud of the Munsters and the Addams Family was that the Munsters TV show back in the 60s was developed by the people that had worked on Leave It to Beaver. So it was all very wholesome, family focused, very traditional sitcom.
Yes.
Whereas the Addams Family TV show was developed by some people that had previously worked with the Marx Brothers. So it was a lot more subversive. It was a lot more explicitly satirical. And I think that is just, it would suggest that, the way to go with the Munsters is you go the Paddington route. You just let them be normal people that everybody else is completely okay interacting with. They just happen to have these weird things about them. Because the Addams Family is doing great with the whole angle of people being weirded out by the Addams Family. Don't even try to fight that fight. Addams Family. I haven't seen the animated movies. I hear they're fucking awful. But my God, the ones from the 90s were so good.
I love those movies. I remember there was a cartoon that I used to see every once in a while that was good. The Addams Family is awesome, but the Addams Family, I think you hit the nail on the head. The Addams Family heightens. So the parents, uber sexual. They are like all over each other constantly. The dad, right, is like always kissing his wife. Talk about how incredible she is. He pulls out gloves, slaps people. He's fencing all the time. Like they are just extreme characters. And then the kids are like constantly killing stuff. They're like trying to kill each other. There's just like so much violence in this. And the Munsters somehow do neither. They're not over the top. There's no violence. They aren't even necessarily doing anything scary other than eating scorpion casserole. Like they're eating weird things, but they're not really doing anything that would be considered scary. They're not trying to kill anybody. They're not trying to eat anybody. They're not mean to people. They're just weird, man. I don't know. It sucked. I feel like I'm done talking about it. You got anything else you want to add?
Yeah, I do want to do one thing about the Addams Family. So part of what's fun about the Addams Family is that the Morticia and Gomez Addams relationship is, like I said, it's satirical. It's a spin on your traditional like portrayal of a family. But I love that what the Addams Family does is it takes this family that is quote unquote weird, but you see that the stuff that they're doing is actually, you know, displaying what's weird about our normal conventions of day-to-day life. And in being an inversion of the relationship that we expect between a husband and wife on a sitcom, you end up getting a very positive, very loving relationship between a husband and a wife. Morticia and Gomez Addams relationship in the movies is like something to strive for. It's really nice. They're deeply in love with each other. It's so nice to see, as opposed to like the whole King of Queens bullshit. I don't know. It's really funny to me. And Addams Family for life, man. The Munsters can fucking eat my butt.
Addams Family for life. Their goals, man. Their goals. Family values. Incredible. And when people are like weirded out by the Addams Family, but they're not scared. But the Addams Family are human beings.
Right.
So there's like a thing where they're like, they're unnerved by the Addams Family, and that's a better gimmick than, at least it's a gimmick. At least it's a choice. I don't know. The Addams Family over Munsters any day, man. Whenever the new Adam Sandler movie or not Adam Sandler,
the Addams Sandler Family.
I want to see an Addams Family movie where Adam Sandler plays all the roles. It's out there. He can dig deep and do it. He played twins. He can play every member of this family and be all over himself as the parents. It would be incredible. Wow. Incredible performance.
I'd be
and
there
I
for
also
it.
and zero cuts, you know, so it's like it's like a one-man show and he has to play all the characters and he's swapping wigs. I think that would be incredible, phenomenal. The Adam Sandler Family would take off, I think.
Tim, that idea sounds horrible, but it sounds a lot better than the Munsters by Rob Zombie. I have previously said that Fant4stick from 2015 is the worst movie I've ever seen. This is gunning for it. The Munsters is right down there with Fant4stick. Holy shit. I didn't think it was possible. Oh,
so thanks again, everyone who voted. We appreciate it. Keep voting. We'll see you in November for the votes.
Yeah, Jesus Christ. Anybody that voted for the Munsters, I will find your IP address. I will block you from voting. You are no longer welcome.
You are sick human beings. You're monsters for making the Munsters our problem.
Oh, what a mess. Well, hey, we'll be back here next week with a way better movie, Hocus Pocus, the original one. Although I hear Hocus Pocus 2 ain't bad.
I'll tell you, spoiler alert for Hocus Pocus, this was a rough week for Tim. Not gonna lie.
No. Oh,
this is a rough week, man. Anyway, thank you all for listening. Tune in next week and stay nerdy, baby.
Stay nerdy. Bye.
Bye. Ugh. That was brutal.
That was so bad, dude.
Dude, fuck Rob Zombie. I'm never listening to a Rob Zombie song again. I'm never watching the first Halloween. You know, I remember the second Halloween he did sucked. I'm trying to think of any other Rob Zombie movies.
He did
I think they're probably all just bad.
House of a Thousand Corpses. He did like The Devil's Rejects. A lot of movies with incredible names.
Should have been 500 Corpses. It should have been 500 Corpses. And why is he making a movie about the rejects? Why isn't it the Devil's favorites? You know, he's making movies about the duds. I mean, this guy has no talent. He's a fucking hack.
Have you heard Dracula?
Yeah, it's the only thing I know. It's got to be like about a vampire's car, right? Like that's what the Dracula is.
Has to be. Has to be. Probably fucking runs on blood.
Through the ditches and burn through the witches. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about, Rob Zombie? This is the least relatable shit I've ever heard.